This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
All right, welcome in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7 a.m. And it is deep into August the 6th, Wednesday. As we get closer to kickoff, we'll talk some college football today for the first hour. Greg and I step off at 8 a.m. The rest of the boys take over as we have day 2 of our college football seminar today. But Ryan Grubb meeting the media yesterday, and I was actually asked by a couple of people over the weekend, Greg, like, what are some of the things we need to know about Alabama that are going to be a little bit different? And I said, well, there are going to be a lot of names that you've heard of, a lot that maybe you haven't. We can talk about a few of those, but it just, I wanted to try to reemphasize having Ryan Grubb back. And it's not to knock anybody else or what anybody else has done, but to me, the emphasis or maybe re-emphasis of being a team that wants to impose their will, being physical, and being a team that's not afraid to run the ball in maybe non-conventional, non-obvious situations because you have that confidence with it, I believe returns to Alabama. How exactly do you feel like Ryan Grubb just individually impacts this upcoming football team in Tuscaloosa?
Well, I think he is going to be able to play off Kalen really well. Obviously, as a play caller, he's really, really good. There's a commitment to a downhill run game. And I think a lot of people are excited about Grubb because of the dynamic that will be created already within the coach's locker room, right? And I think that when Kalen's being the bad guy, Grubb can be the good guy. And when Grubb's being the bad guy, Kalen can be the good guy. And there's a nice dynamic there where there's just such a great rapport that's been built up over the course of 13 years on the staff together. But they go back even longer than that. I think that's the biggest benefit as opposed to the offense's identity and when plays are called and how they exploit. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm at with it. Where are you at?
I feel like last year there were very specific times that this team went out and attempted to impose their will and became ground and pound. It became physical and just didn't really matter what defense they got. Or obviously the times in the game, Wisconsin, Missouri, it was later in the games, but there weren't many other instances when it felt like this team just said, we're going to run the football. There's nothing you can do about it. And I think having him back will allow for some of that. I just think because it's more on the forefront of his mind than it was last year and than it is for a lot of other coordinators. I mean, you and I have talked about, let's just take LSU, for example. I mean, there are certain coordinators that you watch and you can tell there's just not an emphasis to run the football. I think with Grubb, that emphasis is always going to be there. He's always going to want to run the football. And not just because it's convenient or not just because he has the numbers or not just because the time or the situation in the game demands it. I think he's going to want to be that first. And it doesn't mean that they're going to run the ball 55 times a game or, they're going to run the ball in the terrible looks all the time. But I think he will look to create ways for the run game to get going as opposed to some of the opposite. And that's where I think it affects his team. And as we know, there's a trickle-down effect with that mindset. You're RPO heavy and you don't hand the ball off a lot. We've seen offensive linemen sort of give up. And I don't mean that they quit in games, but they don't put forth the same effort. The tight ends don't put forth the same effort. The backs probably creep into the hole a little bit because they know that ball's going to get pulled out a lot. You're getting the football. You're going downhill. You need to push people in order to win on that specific play. The mindset's a little bit different. And I saw quotes from Grubb over the weekend when someone asked what he's most excited about with this football team. It was funny. Like 5 people tagged me on the quote. Somebody that tweeted it out. He's like, I just love the physicality of our offensive line and how they're showing up to work every day. So not that quote is going to spell out what the whole season's going to be, but to me it says that that's been an emphasis point and they're starting to show up with it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's going to be a huge part of what this team's going to be able to do. It's going to be a physical, ground and pound, impose your will type of team, one would hope. And then it's going to be a bit of a blue-collar team, I would think, too, but they're also going to have really good weapons on the outside. Like, I think the weapons on the outside are the most underrated part of the team. I think it has a chance to be a top 5 wide receiver core in America by season's end. And I really believe that. And they're not getting the credit that they probably would get if the other parts of the team were a little weaker. Because I think Bama's pretty strong across the board. I think there is questions about quarterback. But I think Bama's wide receiver core does not take, for example, the back seat to a to the potential that you might get from Auburn's. Like, I think Auburn's got a chance to have a top flight group. But I think Bama, if everything falls into place the way I anticipate it falling into place, could be as good, for example. So I think that's just kind of where I'm at with the receiver core. And if you can run the ball with that type of weaponry on the outside, you're going to be in great shape moving throughout the season.
Well, my wife asked me last night. She's like, "Give me like surface level stuff that I need to know about Auburn this season. What do people need to know?" Because she knows that I'll just go off the deep end and start talking about almost every position other than long snapper, even though Reed Hughes is my guy. But I was like, listen, everybody's going to tell you it comes down to quarterback, and it has to be quarterback. But if the offensive line gets going the way we think it can, and the run game then appears and shows up, and then he can add some things with his legs and be a bit of a dynamic runner at times there, but you have to defend it. With the talented receivers they have, he doesn't have to be Lamar Jackson. He doesn't have to be Baker Mayfield. He doesn't have to be Johnny Manziel. He can just be B+, make the right reads, get the ball out on time, give those receivers a chance to make a play. And even if you miss a lot of them, but they're not bad misses, as in 6 points for the other team going the other way, you'll be able to survive that because you're living in 2nd and 6, 2nd and 4s, and you can take those chances and you can afford those misses, as opposed to when you miss on 2nd and 10, it's 3rd and 10, and now everybody's teeing off on you, and your quarterback has happy feet anyway, and there's probably going to be issues. So I think both those offenses are in similar spots, a little bit different circumstances as to how it'll probably be managed. Like I said, I think Alabama can have a little bit more of a power run game. Auburn probably will live spreading you out just a little bit more, lean on some quarterback runs a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more of the quick game, RPO game, but still, if the run game is there, it opens all that up. And I don't think either of those quarterbacks, in order for those two teams to win 10 games, has to go out and have a Heisman-worthy season.
Not at all. I think that's going to be a huge part of what's going to be very interesting about this season is I think quarterback play is naturally going to get a ton of the conversation and will continue to. But I think we're reverting back to, in some cases, more game manager style quarterbacks. Look at what Will Howard did last year. I think Will Howard was fantastic down the stretch for Ohio State, made everything that you could make, but was not the first overall pick. Riley Leonard, his opposition, it was not a high-level NFL draft pick, very much a game manager in his time at Notre Dame, which was excellent. It was great. I think Gunnar Stockton is going to likely be that for Georgia. I wonder, we'll see what Arch is like. I wonder what Arch is going to – everyone's going to pee their pants no matter what he does. But if he has to take on a bit of a managerial role early in the year, is that something that is asked of him? Or is he an elevate guy? That's going to be interesting because that's kind of the question I have for Bama. That's the question I have for Auburn. That's the question I have for Georgia. That's the question I have for a handful of other programs. Can Nussmeier, quite frankly, manage the game a little better? That's a question there. So I think management is very, very important this year when taking everything else into account.
But again, I think where you're going almost goes down a similar path of what situations are you getting us into instead of what situations are you capable of getting us out of. And Garrett Nussmeier not leaving the pocket, Garrett Nussmeier not crossing the line of scrimmage for a 4 or 5 yard gain when it's there, trying to keep a play alive. All of a sudden, we're in 2nd and 10, 3rd and 12. Instead of we could have been in 2nd and 4, give us 2nd and 7 instead of 2nd, 10, 3rd and 11. And then on the flip side of that too, with this offensive coordinator, can you call a couple run plays to just get us in better spots when we're taking shots because we want to instead of because we have to?
Right.
So I think situationally, if Nuss and the OC and the offensive staff can just get them in more convenient situations more often. You know this better than anybody. That's when your playmakers really help you out. Your playmakers help you out on 2nd and 2 more than they do on 3rd and 10. So if they can get in those situations because of what they're doing, maybe going into games, looking at different ways to create some of the rushing attack, looking at ways to, okay, if you get this look here and you get a 4-man rush and nobody's there, just please leave the pocket and pick up 5 yards and slide. We'll be fine with that. So I don't think it's all too different for any of those because they all have a little bit of if this doesn't happen, it could be troublesome. Like if LSU can't run the ball or hand the ball off again, it could be a problem, specifically with protection this year as opposed to last year. Jackson Arnold can't let go of the ball. It's going to be an issue. Alabama doesn't run the football and maybe puts the ball just in Ty Simpson's hands early this year, and they're not prepared to be that kind of a team yet. That could be a little bit of a problem. So, unfortunately for the SEC, I think we could, like you mentioned with Arch Manning, I think we could do this with every team in the league where if there's an aspect of their offense that's just horrendous or really behind, it could be a big problem for any of these groups.
Major problem. And I think, honestly, though, defensively, answer me this. How do you feel across the board defensively in the league this year? Because the more I think about it, the more I think the defense actually has a chance to be pretty good, kind of across the.
Yeah, but is that because of offenses and where the offenses are in the league? And that's what I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean,
to an extent. I mean, South Carolina, for example, led the league in point. No, A&M did. A&M was first, or South Carolina was first. They were both like 1-2, whatever, in points scored against competition in conference, which I was surprised by. But I just wouldn't in a million years have thought that those would be the top two scoring offenses in the SEC during and against SEC play. So that's surprising, and it was under 30, which I feel like is a little lower than it's been the last couple of years. Do you think so?
Yeah. It's I'm trying to think of where we were at this point last year offensively going into the season. I think we probably thought Alabama would ramp it up a little bit and be better than they were. I don't know if we expected Taylor Green to be as good. Auburn we thought would be better than they were. Florida we thought could be okay, but not necessarily high-powered on offense. Kentucky wasn't going to be high-powered. Mississippi State first year wasn't really going to be that. Probably thought Missouri was actually going to be better offensively than they were. Never thought Oklahoma was be as bad as they were. South Carolina still kind of took them a little while to get going. Tennessee definitely didn't live up to the expectations offensively. Now Vanderbilt may be better offensively, but not at putting points up against people. They didn't play that style of football. So I think collectively A&M probably a little behind where we thought they were going to be. The offenses were probably lacking last year, and maybe that helped the defenses out. I'm trying to look down and see what groups are overly scary. I think there are aspects of a lot of groups that are really scary, but I don't think that there's just one group that I say, whoo. Because you look at Ole Miss, and that front's just not going to be what it was last year. LSU, is the secondary going to be good, great, really good? We don't know. South Carolina obviously has a lot to replace. Tennessee, can they be close to what they were last year? We think they can, but they don't have the depth. I think Vanderbilt's group will be better than they were last year. So, yeah, Alabama's group I think will be better than last year. Arkansas I think is a little bit of a mystery, but I do think they'll be better than people are giving them credit for because nobody's talking about Cam Ball and some of the linebackers that they're going to have back, Xavier Story and company. I don't think they're going to be a complete liability like some people are saying. Like Florida, D-line, really good. Secondary, don't know. Is Elo Mendoza going to be a game changer for Georgia? Don't really know. Oklahoma should be incredible, but you lost two of your best players on that side of the ball last year. So I'm with you. It looks like the defenses collectively might be a little bit better, but similar to the offenses, they all still have that one aspect that you just kind of say, man, I don't know if I can completely get on board with that part of that group just yet.
Yeah, and I think that that's fair at this point, too. It's so early in camp. Like, with camp coming to a close maybe in 2 weeks, we'll have a little bit more clarity based on the buzz coming out and how things have gone during scrimmages and all that stuff. But right now, there are so many unknowns still at this point of camp, 6, 7, 8 days in. I think another week or two, let's hope that we don't have as many questions as we might have right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, one thing you never have questions about is train. The heat hasn't been as bad yesterday, might not be as bad today, but you know it's coming back. Don't let it affect your home. Keep your family comfortable with an affordable Trane cooling system. They've been recognized as America's most trusted brand 11 consecutive years. And they're the official cooling partner here at Jocks. Find a comfort specialist near you at Trane.com. It's hard to stop a train. Jim Donnan, former Georgia head football coach, going to join us next to talk about the Dogs and maybe a little insight on Auburn from the coach. That's next right here on Jocks.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, and three-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy Cubelic in the morning, 7:17 right here on Jocks. Listen online, jocksfn.com. App is in your app store, iPhone, Android. You can download that for free. Listen on the go. Watch on YouTube. The link will be there, and get all your podcasts you may have missed as well. Former Georgia head football coach Jim Donnan joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. Talk a little SEC football. And, Coach, we were just talking about offenses, defenses, being ahead, being behind this time in practice in fall camp. What was your strategy as a head coach of kind of what you wanted to do with those two groups, who you wanted to be ahead, behind, how much you were going to show from each, just collectively on each side of the football heading into your first game?
Yeah, I think every team's got its own MO, but a lot of it had to do if you had an established quarterback like Greg McElroy, so you were ready to go. So you could go see all those defenses that Nick would put out there. I kid Kirby about the scout team for the Georgia is our offense because he's trying to get the defense ready. But every team has its own issues, and the younger the quarterback, the more I try to constrict the defenses and build some confidence. But it's hard enough to develop an offense. Back in the old days, we used to use dummies and shields because we didn't have walkthroughs, but just really worked against air to get the timing. But now this year-round deal where they practice all the time, teams are really pretty much ready to go when fall camp starts because they've practiced so much in the spring and they've had so much work in the summer.
Looking at Georgia in particular, Coach, it feels like I like Gunnar Stockton a lot. I think he throws it better than people realize, but I do think the grittiness, him being willing to be involved in the run game is going to kind of change their identity. I think Kirby kind of wants that. I think he's welcoming that. Is it fair to assume that this group's going to be a little more rugged, maybe a little more blue collar than they've been the last couple of years?
Yeah, that's a real good assessment, Greg. I think the big thing is they got to stay on the field more. They just didn't make many conversions last year, particularly dropping some passes. And, if you catch a pass on 3rd and 4 and give you 3 more downs, you're going to be pretty good. But for the first time in like 4 or 5 years, our defense really didn't get the ball for the offense much. And really the limitations on the amount of reps we had on the field hurt us. But I think with Gunnar, you got to maybe sustain some drives, make some plays with his legs. And even though he doesn't have a lot of game experience, he has kind of like Stetson Bennett did, worked against the first 2 units for 2.5, 3 years in practice. So that's good work for him. So really, I think they got to be a little tougher at the line of scrimmage for sure.
Jim Donnan, Georgia head football coach, former Georgia head football coach, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. We obviously want to talk to you about Georgia, what they're going to be, but I want to hear your opinions on Auburn as well, Hugh Freeze. Before we actually get your thoughts on this team, you have an interesting connection to this team. Stanford quarterback Ashton Daniels has transferred in. We've talked about him some and maybe the benefits that he can provide actually filling in, or if he had to become the starter, if Jackson Arnold can't get it done. But you have a pretty cool connection to this young man if he were to get some playing time for Auburn this year. Tell our listeners what it is.
Well, when I got the job here, his dad, Juan Daniels, who was a really terrific high school player in the state of Georgia over at Norcross, was actually state champion in the triple jump. He was a punter, punt returner in high school, but he was really a wide receiver here. I think over his career caught about 50 or 60 passes and 12 or 13 touchdowns. But he was one of the guys that, we've talked about it before, both you and Greg, about when you take a job, you're taking over for some kids that you didn't recruit. And sometimes the kids are a little bit more receptive than the others. And Juan was one that really jumped on my bandwagon very early and was very vocal in his support. But he was also a very hard worker and very talented athlete. And so as every coach, you keep up with your guys over the years and watch the kids grow up. But with Juan living very close to here and his son going to school at Buford, I was able to watch him come to camp here and work out and also, watch him on TV and everything. And then Stanford Steve, who, I have an association with through ESPN when I worked up there, was always telling me about what Ashton was doing out at Stanford, and you got to see him play a few times on TV. But, I think for sure he gives them a guy that's had some really good success in college and in a good league, and it's always good to have a guy that can jump out there. I know through my association with OU that they're high on Jackson, and he's going to be ready to go. But I think it's awesome that Juan's going to get to see his son play so close to home, and hopefully they could have a package for him.
Hopefully they will. That'd be awesome. It'd be tremendous to hear. Well, I mean, I've watched some of his stuff, and it looks like he's a good athlete, and it looks like he was in a pretty good spot, but more kind of on Stanford than anything else. What is going on with that athletic department? Like, I mean, guys are fleeing. They don't have any money. I mean, it's just help me understand, like, what was the circumstances around his experience there, and how are things going with the Cardinal?
Well, it's like that kid one time I said that went out to the mall, said it's chaos with a capital K. I mean, seriously, the kid couldn't spell very good. But the idea is that you think with all the stuff they got and the money they got in their overall budget out there for the other things at Stanford, they could work out something. But ever since Shaw left, it's kind of been a revolving door of players, coaches, everything. And then the previous coach just got let go for something. I'm not sure what. But and then, the fact that Luck's in there as a general manager, I mean, he loves Stanford, and he I don't know how much knowledge he has about creating a team, and then all of a sudden he brings in the guy from the Panthers. But it's definitely a situation where, well, who knows anymore? I mean, like we play Marshall the first game, they got 55 or 60 new players. I mean, the way these kids transfer and go in, I mean, hopefully Stanford can get something going. But I think Juan and Ashton, I don't want to speak for them, but I think that just the fact that they wanted to go somewhere was a little more solid for a chance to, maybe not be so much upheaval. But it's definitely an issue for sure.
We brought that up yesterday, Coach, and you can maybe take us further from a head coaching perspective on this. I know you didn't have to deal with all the change and the roster turnover, but maybe at times some more than others. We kind of pointed to some of these bigger games in college football, weeks 1, 2, 3, and the teams that just play ordinarily good football are probably going to win. Don't turn the ball over, convert some third down situations, move the chains, play good field position, don't shake a punt, don't have a snap go over the quarterback or punter's head. Holder doesn't drop a ball on a field goal attempt. I mean, it sounds weird, but because there's so much new, don't you look at this and say the teams with the fewest penalties, the teams that don't turn it over, the teams that maybe can control certain aspects of the game and have that go their way are probably going to get some of these big games early on because everybody's going to be feeling their teams out for the most part.
Well, that's an accurate assessment. You sound like you're giving a pep talk before the first game there, Cole. I mean, you got to avoid losing as much as you try to win because you really don't know what your team's MO is going to be because you practice with them, but some kids react differently. But you go back to Florida a couple of years ago out at Utah. I mean, they had so many penalties and so many turnovers. They had no chance to have even an opportunity to even be competitive because they just self-destructed, and they did that several games. I'm not just bagging on them, but the first game with so many tremendous big opportunities for all of us to watch, with Ohio State, Texas, and all these games, those teams are going to play pretty good regardless. But if you've got a team that you're close to being competitive with, but you start doing some of those things, you give your kids no chance to win, and they lose a little confidence, and the other team jumps on it. But football is a game that all of us know that sometimes the best team doesn't win. You lose the game on your own side of the ball. So the really good coaches are the ones that really instill discipline and understand those kind of situations and work hard, which I used to talk to our guys about. We know what won for us last year, and we know what got us beat. We got to really work hard on doing both well, doing better about winning the big situations and avoid the bad plays.
Coach, I wanted to get one more with you because you coach quarterbacks, coached on the offensive side of the ball for a long time. We brought up Auburn a little bit earlier. Jackson Arnold last year got to a point where it appeared as though it was difficult for him to let go of the football. And there were a lot of circumstances around that, a lot of reasons for that. How does a coach go about resetting that in the offseason and finding a way to get that confidence back, get that trust back, and just Get that kid to the point where when he sees it, he's okay just letting it go, knowing that everything's going to be able to work itself out.
Well, I'm a big Jackson Arnold fan. My background is at Oklahoma. Most of my kids live out there. They follow OU religiously, and I know a lot about the program just because I talk to my son and my daughter and my son-in-law all the time about it. But in his defense, he had zero help. I mean, his offensive line was probably the worst OU's had because of injuries and guys transferring and all. Every snap he's running for his life. And if you go up to the line, Greg talks about it all the time, and you're not really secure in your protection and you're worried about who's going to be able to help you out, you're going to be a little shaky. And then the fact they had 0-2 receivers, I mean, their receivers got hurt and transferred. They had guys that were 3 and 4 deep walk-ons playing. And that's just hard to believe that a team like OU would be so offensively disoriented. But it's no excuse. But the reality is, even if Auburn was like it was last year or the year before, that's a lot better offensive cast than he played with. So, and I know he knows the system that Coach Freeze utilizes. He's got some players to help him, and I think it's just going to be a different atmosphere as far as holding the ball because he didn't have any idea where he could throw it and how it's protection. So I hope the fans realize that and understand that this kid was really, really highly recruited. We tried to jump on him here because he had a background over in Atlanta before he transferred out to Texas in high school. So I think he could be a real sleeper product as far as around the country, as far as quarterbacks that are going to make a big imprint. And hopefully he does, except against us.
Well, Coach, we appreciate the time this morning. Some cool stuff from you. Always great to catch up with you, hear your voice, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Okay, appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Coach. Jim Donnan, former Georgia head coach. And Jackson Arnold played some high school football in the state of Georgia before he moved as well. So a lot of different ties there back and forth from Georgia and Oklahoma. Before we go to break, Greg, tell our listeners about Bromberg's.
Well, Bromberg's been my go-to for a really long time. I've always appreciated and enjoyed the experience. The second I walk in the door, they're undergoing a really nice renovation, too, in the Mountain Brook Village store. So you go and check it out. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's going to be an elevated modern design that reflects Bromberg's long-standing commitment to quality service and to the community. The transformation will enhance the experience as if it can be enhanced anymore because it's already incredible. I think you guys will understand the second you walk in the door exactly why they've been the only place that I would shop for jewelry since we moved back about 8.5 years ago. So highly recommend going and checking out Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit.
All right, we'll continue talking Georgia and hear from Ryan Grubb as we get back to Alabama here in just a moment on Jocks.
The capital of the sports talk nation. This is Jocks 94.5 and JocksFM.com. Birmingham.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. 7:34 Wednesday, August 6th, right here on Jocks, talking some more college football. Great conversation with Jim Donnan. Juan Daniels, father of Ashton Daniels, former Stanford quarterback, now Auburn quarterback, who could have a package, could play some meaningful football for the Tigers this year. If one, Jackson Arnold can't get it done, or two, he were to be dinged up, could become valuable in a valuable spot on that roster as the season sort of progresses and we see what Auburn turns into. I want to get back to Alabama, though, and Ryan Grubb, the Alabama offensive coordinator that is back with Kalen DeBoer from the Seattle Seahawks a year ago. Discussing yesterday how the quarterback reps have been split so far through practice.
Right now, we're keeping status quo. All the guys have been getting 1s, 2s, and 3s, with the exception of Ty. He's the only guy that's not taking any 3 reps. So really, it's been status quo. But today, everybody got a couple racks with the 1s, and Ty took a couple with the 2s. So we're still moving them around, and the guys know that. There's a pretty clean picture moving forward throughout the week.
Any surprises there, Greg, as far as how these reps are being split? You felt like would be split comparatively, anything along those lines?
I don't think that's really a big surprise at all. I think mostly just the fact that Ty's not going to really rep with the 3s at this point doesn't make a ton of sense. So it sounds like to me the battle right now, the heaviest emphasis is probably on the number 2 spot. like making sure both those guys get good looks at the twos. And then in the event in which they exceed expectations on the twos, then you start to cut your teeth with the ones. So I could see that maybe giving those guys a couple reps here and there. But it sounds like based on that conversation right there, a lot of the competition is actually for the backup job more so than for the starting job. I don't know, do you read into it the same way?
No, that's about the way that I came away from it. Ryan Grubb also talking about just the quarterback's performances recently in Alabama football practice.
They've grown a ton. Spring to now, even first practice to now, has been outstanding. I thought, a couple of the young guys hit a couple bumps early on, and I really thought they played through it really quickly. Sometimes you'll hit that, and they'll stay down. They get on the canvas, and they can't get back up, but I thought both the guys did a great job, Keelan and Austin, of playing through that. We've had a lot less up and down with the whole room. I think that we've done a good job taking care of football. Again, today there was no picks, and I really didn't feel like the ball was in jeopardy today. And I think that's one of the biggest things is just improved decision-making in the room.
So that's Ryan Grubb, Alabama offensive coordinator, on quarterback performance. That decision-making seems to be a continuous sort of go-to for Grubb and DeBoer, Greg, the last couple of times I've heard them after practice. And I'm assuming, one, as we've talked about with Ty Simpson, if he handles that part of it, a lot of things are going to fall into place for the Alabama offense. And then, two, if you have younger players vying for time or battling for the number 2, the number 3 spot, that's going to be way up. That's going to be way up the list of things that are going to happen for whoever it is to win that spot.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be really big. Is developing some rapport, carving out some opportunities to kind of develop that time, that timing, that execution, that communication, all that stuff's so big, right? And I don't know about you. At what point of camp did you start to really feel comfortable? Like really start to feel, all right, I'm in the groove a little bit now. I think it's almost about at this point of camp. So now is like when you can really start to kind of make a move if there's a competition that's going on. Is that kind of about the same time for you, about a weekend, 6, 7, 8 practices in? That's when you're starting to really feel like you're back to your old self?
Yeah, I would say you probably need to get a scrimmage in, though, first. Probably after the second scrimmage is when I really felt good, because I think that's when you have a pretty good idea, once things get live, what you have around you, how people are going to react to things, what it's going to look like. So that's probably where things started to really slow down, and you felt like, all right, this is where we need to focus. This is things that might be an issue. This is what I know we're going to have, and that's where I feel like it probably felt best about the potential of our team was going to be after that. Ryan Grubb going to a different position, though, talking about the running backs and how they have fared so far in Alabama camp.
Jam Miller, he's the man. Love that guy. So Jam's been doing everything. I think, the thing about a guy like Jam, you love older guys that don't feel like their skill set's complete. And what I mean by that is I think Jam really wholeheartedly takes on, like, there's things that I can get better at. And he works at them extremely hard. He's very diligent about his process. And so he's a good leader in the room. I think Daniel has showed the physicality we thought with exceptional hands. I think Dre's getting better at pass protection, as is Rich. And so those 4 guys have really shown a lot of growth. And then even A.K. Deere is a guy that, was really swimming this spring and has showed some promise here lately. Normally I don't talk about those younger guys too much, but just been proud about, his progress the last couple of days has been really good.
He's a guy that we've sort of been waiting on for 2-3 years now, Greg. And the members of the old staff told us a couple of times, a couple springs, he was the one that came out really impressing people, that he had the potential to be able to be the guy. I think it could be a huge year for him. And maybe not massive as in he's not going to have 90% of the carries, but he could be featured at times, and I think has a chance to really put together a solid year for Alabama.
Yeah, I think that the running back spot is much deeper than we realized. I don't know if you see it the same way. Like, I know that Jam Miller's kind of the household name, but I think they can go 4 deep and be just fine at running back. And obviously the addition to Deere, now you're talking about 5 deep. I don't know what his expectation level is of being on the field and down out basis, but to have depth at running back is significant. Now, I think Jam's a dude. I think he's the best one, I think by a decent margin. But for the style of offense that Grubb wants to run, I think they've been real thoughtful and intentional about adding guys that fit how he wants his backs to hit the hole. Because they have 3 power backs that will just flat out try to run you over. They're not dancing. They're just going. So I think that they've been very, very specific with the style of back that they want to go after, and I feel like they have 3 that can do it with the addition of a potential star in Jam.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's that Alabama rushing attack is, I don't want to say a question mark as in can it work, can it be successful, but just how good it's going to be, how much they're going to be able to lean on it at different points in time, and then who steps up and maybe takes charge of it, both on the offensive line, at running back, and how it's managed at the quarterback position. All questions that I think we're just excited to see how it plays out for this Alabama football team this upcoming season. We got to get to Texas, Steve Sarkisian. We'll go down to Gainesville, go to Nashville as well for more updates around the Southeastern Conference, all next right here on Jocks.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, and 3-Man Front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Damian Saber and the guys going to take over at 8 a.m. Greg and I have to step off for our college football seminar for ESPN. However, sticking with ESPN for a moment, a lot of news recently with the worldwide leader. Extension of the NFL draft rights, WWE premium live event deals, which means SummerSlam, WrestleMania will be on the ESPN family of networks. August 21st is announced today that the ESPN direct-to-consumer app is going to be announced, and an agreement with the NFL network for other NFL assets such as Red Zone, further draft coverage, etc., all being announced, GMAC, by ESPN in the last, 48 hours? It's been a pretty significant couple of days.
Massive. And for the NFL to be willing, I mean, you look at the NFL's engagement. Did you see the numbers, by the way, of the NFL preseason game last week? 6.5 million viewers, which is 2 million viewers more than the NBA playoffs averaged throughout the entire postseason.
That's crazy.
I mean, that just goes to show you like how big the NFL is and how massive it is. And for them to be willing to basically spin off their properties is pretty significant in exchange for 10% of the equity at ESPN. It makes you believe that the NFL is acknowledging that ESPN could potentially grow, which I think is a pretty nice indicator considering all the billionaires that are owners. If they're buying into the long term at ESPN, that's a pretty cool thing to have.
No doubt. All right, let's continue going around the Southeastern Conference. Let you hear from different camps. We're going to do it every day leading up to kickoff. Steve Sarkisian on where they've spent the most time so far this fall camp.
I thought we responded, really well with a lot of different aspects of the game that we've gotten ourselves into. We're through a lot of the first, second down work. We've done plenty of third down work, and we just started the red zone today. So situational football is alive and well for us as we'll continue to grow and not just installing plays, but learning how to play the game the way we want to play it.
Situational football, obviously, teams that haven't been in that spot as much, guys who haven't been in that spot as much, that becomes critical. And so with a newer quarterback, Greg, hard to imagine that's not going to be an emphasis for the Horns this offseason.
I think everyone wants to just put Arch on third base, acting as if he's, the second coming. I hope he is, but there's still a level of youth here and inexperience that we're going to need to see to believe, right? I mean, are you in the same boat with me acknowledging, and we know we've talked about this, but I still think even though Arch is a third-year player, you need to bring him along slowly and make sure he's up to the task and don't give him too much early, because I think if you overload his plate, that's going to cause him to have some problems. And I would hope that would not be something that would be, a huge issue.
Well, I also think, too, he has proven, and you've tried to bring this up maybe using different words, saying it different ways. He's a bit of a risk taker, running the football, contact, some of the throws down the field, and maybe just thinking that he can make those throws or not putting some of those throws where they need to be to not fall in harm's way, as opposed to just thinking that he can make that play. So, yeah, I think there are multiple reasons that probably needs to happen for him, just so he can understand that not every play needs to be made on every snap. Not every play is going to be made on every snap, and how to sort of manage things at times. So, yeah, I would agree with you. And it is interesting. We know the name. We know a lot of the hype, that a lot of people are kind of already putting him on a certain pedestal, but he still has a lot to prove. And with an unproven offensive line, that can be a question mark as to what kind of time is he going to have? What kind of run game are they going to have around it? So Sark can manipulate it to an extent with backs out of the backfield, motions, formations, things of that nature. But, it's that group up front is going to have to find their way pretty quickly if this offense is going to take off. And that's one thing Sark has emphasis on in this fall camp leading up to the first game is mental toughness.
Really challenging the guys on their mental toughness and what that takes and what that entails. That's a reason we practice in the afternoons, because I think that does help develop that mental toughness. When fatigue sets in, can we remain focused? Can we still be attentive to the details? Can we play a consistent brand of football when fatigue sets in, when it's hot, and when we're in the fourth quarter of practice?
All right, so Steve Sarkisian, just on that mental toughness, GMAC, they have a lot of new faces in the trenches on both sides of the ball. He wants to find ways to win there.
Well, and I love how he took a subtle shot to like every other program by saying that's why we practice in the afternoon. You know what I mean? As opposed to practicing in the morning to make it easier on the guys. Because I remember it used to be a real badge of honor for us to practice in the afternoon. And I don't know if it necessarily matters because you still got to wake up early for practice in the morning. So there's challenges with both sides of things, but I don't know how you see it.
By the way, I'll take the afternoon heat because when you practice in the morning, you're not practicing at 9. I mean,
what time are you practicing?
Well, the main reason that my understanding was the main reason that folks went to the morning practices was to get it done before school, so nobody could have a class conflict. So you're practicing 5:30 or 6 in season in the mornings. I'll pass on that.
You're out.
Hard pass.
That's it.
If I had my choice, I mean, we're going to play when it's hot. You know what we're not going to do? Play at 6 a.m.
Yo.
We're going to play when it's hot. It's going to be hot when we play. So let's get used to it. Let's go get in it. I'm fine with that.
I've always felt like the morning practices were a beast because I, as a 17-year-old kid, was not really conditioned to wake up at 5 in the morning. So I wasn't really into the morning practice. I would far rather have the afternoon practice as a college student because I didn't know the difference from. I honestly didn't really know the difference from 100 degrees and 85 degrees. It didn't make a difference to me.
All right.
Moving back to the conversation, though, like looking at Sark and looking at Texas, talking as much about mental toughness as they do, does that make you think that there's like something to be concerned about there?
I think this is more big picture. I personally believe that this was an issue when he got there, and he knew that it was going to have to be addressed. And I think it's something that because I'll get your opinion on this after I say it, and this is just my opinion from a distance. I think mental toughness was a problem there for a long time. I think front runner mentality was an issue there for a long time. I think looking good, being highly recruited, things of that nature were more important than just winning dirty football games. And so I think he will always have an emphasis on that because of that. He wants to make sure that they're never going to fall back anything close to maybe what that mentality was when he got there.
Well, and I think that's something if you know what the challenges have been in the past, it allows you to be a little bit more aware of the challenges that could lie in the future. Like, don't let the past get you. So I look at it and I think it's a perfectly reasonable thing, but they seem to talk about toughness more than just about any other team. How many other teams are talking toughness? Because I don't hear it very often. Like, we want to be tough. We want to be physical. We want to have tough practices. But like outwardly talking about the mental toughness as often as it seems like they do, it makes me think like, gosh, is this team like struggling with that? You know what I mean? Which would be surprising, but based on how they've played in the past, like not the most crazy thing you've ever heard. That's for sure.
No, but also think about how they recruit and think about who they're recruiting. I mean, they shoot for the stars, literally. They recruit 5 stars and 4 stars, and not just guys from Texas. So it's not just guys that want to come play at Texas. They recruit guys whose mentality probably has been a little bit pampered, been highly sought after. And maybe part of this is a little bit of a bringing them back down to earth mentality of, yeah, you were great. You were highly recruited. You were highly sought after. But when it comes time to be a player here, like, we got to get physical. We got to get down and dirty. Like, we've got to win different ways, not just being the biggest, fastest, strongest on the team. Like, you have to earn it to win games in this league. And so maybe it's a little bit of that also. You know, they Lamborghini dealership, pulling them in on campus, like all the different pictures. I mean, I feel like I see more from that there than I do other places, but they're winning with it. They're winning and recruiting with it. So I don't blame them. It's not a bad thing.
Absolutely not. No, gosh, no.
But maybe you just feel like, all right, enough of all that. Now we need to place the emphasis here.
Yeah, totally fair. All that is reasonable and understandable, but I just could not imagine for the life of me, like, how hard it is to de-recruit these guys. Like, I would just think it's so hard nowadays to de-recruit these guys. So maybe that's why he's so aware. Maybe that's why he's constantly talking about it, harping on it, because of the importance of de-recruitment, considering the personnel they're bringing in. And maybe he's got a couple guys that are not really doing what they need to do right now. And maybe, guess what? It's also early in the spring or early in the fall camp. So it's not that uncommon for guys to maybe show a little bit of mental weakness. It's not like it's hot, it's 1,000,000 degrees, you're struggling, you're running play after play after play. It's kind of a time when your mental toughness is at an all-time high. So they're needing to be at an all-time high. So maybe it's just something they're hyper aware of and getting taken care of.
Absolutely. All right, John and the guys going to take over for you the rest of the way. Greg and I got to get back to our college football seminar, day 2. We'll be back with you tomorrow, 7 to 10 a.m. Appreciate Jim Donnan hopping on with us. A lot more college football coming your way. Might hear from Clark Lee, might hear from Billy Napier. More discussion around Alabama, their physicality, Texas, mental toughness. Is that an issue for them? What's going on down in Auburn with Jackson Arnold and that quarterback situation? All of that and more coming here from McElroy and Cubelic in the morning for the next 2 hours, leading right into three-man front here on Jocks.
This is McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.